Here, what could a Supreme Court ruling mean for abortion access across the country, specifically when it comes to medication abortion?
Well, you've set the record straight, which is to say right now the Fifth Circuit's ruling has no effect essentially nationwide because we're waiting to hear what's going to happen at the Supreme Court. But we're a year in after Dobbs with a very conservative Supreme Court that has the majority and that already undermined Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, wiping it away. And even though they said in Dobbs, we'll leave these matters to the states, voters can go and vote and determine what they want in terms of abortion rights. This is a case that has implications nationwide. It's not state by state. It means that if the Supreme Court issues a ruling saying that we must roll back mifepristone's access to 7 weeks or get rid of it altogether, that's a nationwide, essentially, ban on abortion. So these are very perilous times given this case that I think probably there's been not enough attention paid to in terms of what the national implications can be.
One of the judges on the Court of Appeals wanted to ban mifepristone outright. He was overruled by two other judges on the panel. Is there still a possibility mifepristone could be removed from the market entirely?
Well, see, what's dangerous about this case and why there are pharmaceutical manufacturers that are very interested in what's happening here is that you could have any random group that is aggrieved by there being a particular drug in the marketplace. Maybe they don't believe in COVID. Maybe they believe that there shouldn't be vaccinations for COVID or anything else, who could find a particular judge that has that agrees with them, that has similar proclivities in terms of thinking along the same lines. You know, a judge that could say, yeah, we believe that you have standing. We believe that you are aggrieved, and we believe that, you know, your grievances have been caused by this drug being on the market and that you may potentially have to serve people. Well, if that's true, then we have any number of drugs that could be implicated and yanked from the market. And what's so important about this is that it is unprecedented. The Food and Drug Administration has been approving drugs for nearly a century, and this is the first time we've had a ruling like this.
I want to make sure I get your thoughts on this case in Texas. A state prison guard forced to stay at her post for hours while she was experiencing labor pains at 7 months pregnant. She says that delayed access to medical treatment caused her baby to be stillborn. She's now suing the state, and what is particularly shocking here is that the state is pushing back by saying a fetus has no rights. Yet Texas, of course, has a near total abortion ban in place under the pretense that fetuses do in fact have rights. And I wonder what that tells you about the Republican agenda in Texas and beyond.
There are grave inconsistencies within this space. I mean, let's be clear, for all of the claims that there is care about fetuses, we see that there's not been Medicaid expansion in many of these states that have banned abortion. We know they have incredibly high rates of maternal mortality and morbidity. We know that they've cut back with regard to food stamp access, welfare, et cetera. And so there isn't a very sincere showing of a true care with regard to fetuses, that's for sure, or children after they're born, or people who can give birth. There's not a real showing for the care, humanity capacities of women and girls. And so what you're pointing out is a hypocrisy, and I think Americans have been seeing that certainly within the last year. And for people who've been paying attention beforehand, where Black and brown women were the canaries in the coal mine, we know that this is longstanding.